So this is a first. I have worked in multiple cases that have wraparound glass, you know, glass that they bend in the front so you get a full unrestricted view of your PC hardware. But I've never worked in a case where the glass bends on the top and bends down the front. So this is the L280 by DarkFlash. I've worked in a few DarkFlash cases in the past, and I'm gonna be honest, the previous DarkFlash cases that I've worked with are not anywhere near as nice as this case. Now this case does come in at $134 currently as of recording this video, and honestly, for $138, what you get is a pretty nice case. Now, this is a dual chamber full ATX case. It does come included with the 3 back fans that are here. They are reversed fans, and then you have the 1 exhaust fan here with the ability to add 3 more fans down here at the bottom. Now, you can't add any fans up top because obviously the top is glass, and that just wouldn't work out well for you. I mean, I guess you could like glue them on there if you wanted to, but that's just probably not a good idea. Now the front panel here is toolless. All you do is grab the back tab here and it will just pop right off. Now, I wanna be honest, this glass is pretty light. It's a little thinner than what you would maybe want, but I mean, you're not gonna be taking off the glass all that often, so it's not that big a deal, especially at a $134 price point. Now, a lot of times when the front panel is toolless, so is the back. Unfortunately, with this case, you do just get the thumb screws. It's not the end of the world to unscrew it, but it is something to know. You do get dust filters on both of the intakes in the back here, but that's pretty, I mean, the holes are pretty small, so it's gonna restrict airflow a little bit. And I just noticed this, these don't come off, they are glued down. So your dust filter, if you wanted to clean it off, you would need to take the whole panel off to go ahead and clean it. But in the back here, you do get quite a bit of room to work. You obviously have your drive trays up here, which you can unscrew and remove if you want to, and you mount your power supply down here at the bottom. Now for the I/O on the case, we do get our power button, we get a Type-C, we get a USB 3.0, a USB port, audio jack, reset, and LED switch. Now what I think is a little crazy about the LED switch is that you just get the ability to plug in the LED switch. You don't get like a RGB hub or anything like that you find on some other cases. So this switch will only work if you buy a hub that you can plug the LED switch into. Also not the end of the world because I'd rather use the motherboard software anyways, so it's not like this was gonna get used regardless. Now obviously the wraparound glass here is what's going to be like the main selling feature of this case. It's what's gonna draw the most attention to a buyer who's gonna wanna build inside of a PC case. Now it does have an extra feature in there, and then it is this built-in CPU and GPU usage and thermal reader, which is pretty nice because everybody wants a screen inside of their case these days, and if you don't have the money for a screen, or you don't want to run an AIO, and the CPU cooler doesn't have a screen, the one that you're getting doesn't have a screen, you would have the ability to see what your CPU and GPU usage is and their temperatures without needing to run a hardware monitor while you're on your system. Now one thing that I always kind of worry about when it comes to this style of case is the glass top doesn't really allow you to have much more exhaust. So you have the 3 reversed fans here. If you were gonna be putting 3 more fans down here, you would make those intake as well. So you would be running 6 intake fans and 1 exhaust fan. Now, like I said, we're gonna put a PC inside of here and we'll do some thermal testing and see how well this case does. I have some pretty extreme hardware going in here, so we're gonna get a good idea of just how well this system can cool a PC. Now, even though I was pretty disappointed to see that the dust filters were glued down on the back panel here, that is not the case with the bottom intake filter. You can pull this out and remove it for easy cleaning to make sure that the inside of your case stays nice and clean at all times. Now here is an issue that I've come across with other cases, and I'm running into the exact same problem with this case, and it has to do with the fans. The fans that come included with this case are very cool looking, and I was really excited to use them because they have a really cool RGB pattern, and I thought that they would make the build look really unique. But unfortunately, I need 3 more fans to finish the build that I want to put together for you guys, and they don't sell these fans individually. And I know I'm not the only one who just hates the idea of their fans not matching, because I just don't want to have 2 different brands of fans inside of my case. Now, I could buy similar fans, but these are very unique in their design and they wouldn't match at all. So I'm unfortunately going to take them out for today's build. But if DarkFlash is watching, I'd love it if you just just make them available so that, you know, we can buy them and add them into our builds because they're really, really cool. Now, we can talk about the case all day, but that is not gonna matter. What's going to matter is how good this system looks once it has a PC in it and how well it performs, because I'm really interested to see how well the thermals check out in this system once this thing's really pushing some FPS. So let's go ahead and let's get a PC put in this thing. So I think this is like the third case in a row that we've looked at where I disliked the case before we put a PC in it, and then once we put the computer in it, it like completely transforms the case. And I like it way more. Now that's exactly how I feel about this case. Now I know that you guys just finished watching the montage, but as far as specs go for this system, it is a 7800X3D with an RTX 3080 graphics card. We have a B650 motherboard and 32 gigs of DDR5 memory with the awesome Johnsbow fans that everybody seems to love, the 360mm AIO from DarkFlash as well, and a 850 watt power supply. Now as far as acoustics go, this is not the quietest PC that we've ever put together. It's not the loudest, but it's definitely audible. Now the reason it's so loud is because the perforations down here where you put your fans, they're pretty closed off. So what we're hearing is the resistance of air trying to come in versus these fans, and it definitely is pretty loud. 55 dBA at 100% load. It's audible. I mean, you're gonna hear this thing going. Now, the one thing that I was most concerned about when I got this case was the thermals and airflow inside of the system, because when you think of how you want to design the airflow in this case, you want fresh air being drawn up from the bottom, and then you have the choice of running exhaust on your AIO or intake on your AIO. Now I chose intake because I want fresh air from outside going through the radiator into the case. And because of that, we are relying on this one exhaust fan to expel all the hot air from the system. Now the graphics card is a 3080, and 3080s get very hot. I've seen 3080s run, on average at around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius just while gaming, and that's normal for the card. It's not damaging the card, but that's very hot, and we are relying on one single exhaust fan to expel all of the hot air from our AIO and from our GPU. And let me tell you, the back of this case was blazing hot by the time I finished all of my benchmarking and gameplay testing on this system. Now, we are in luck when it comes to thermal testing the graphics card inside of this system, because I was able to see the improvement of this graphics card's thermals in this case versus the case that it came out of. This graphics card came out of somebody else's build that I had purchased a little while ago. And in that build, he had 2 intake fans, but they were running on the back wall. It didn't have anything in the way of intake from the bottom into the graphics card. Now, when I ran Firmark for this graphics card before we put it in this case, it hit 85 degrees Celsius, which, like I said before, is fine for the graphics card, but we definitely want it to run a little cooler than that. Now, when we put it in this case and we ran Firmark, we hit 77 degrees Celsius. So we're running a pretty decent increase in thermals just having it inside of this case. So, just a quick case swap into here actually improved thermals versus hurting them, even though we are basically in a hot oven with 1 exhaust fan. Now, in gameplay, in the system that this graphics card was in, we were seeing around 81 degrees Celsius on average during gameplay, and now with the fans down here at the bottom blowing fresh air into the graphics card, we're seeing a decrease of 8 degrees Celsius on average during all of our gameplay testing. So throwing it in here was, great for the longevity of the card and all of the hardware inside of here. Plus, it's really nice to see an improvement in thermals for the graphics card because we are also pulling in hot air from this CPU cooler. Now, the CPU is a 7800X3D, and it will get a little bit hot, but on average, the CPU is running at around 58 degrees Celsius the entire time. This AIO is pretty nice. Now, a con that I do have is you're gonna need to get like some kind of air purifier, because I built this thing 2 hours ago, and there's already like a layer of dust on the top of it. So you're gonna need to make sure you're in like a clean room to make sure that the top stays clean for you. You're just gonna invest in a bunch of microfiber towels. Now, as far as cable management goes inside of here, there's a ton of space. There isn't a lot of like straps and stuff like that because it's $135, and generally with a $135 case, you get some decent cable management options and maybe some like tie downs and stuff that are built into the back. But unfortunately, you don't get that with this case because they spent, all the money on the curved glass and the RGB panel up front, which I didn't use, by the way, and I didn't use for good reason. This motherboard only has 2 USB headers on it, so I needed one for the AIO, and I'd much rather have the ability to use the USB on the top IO on the case rather than have a display feature in the front of the case plus a display feature inside of the case. I didn't need 2 ways to figure out what my CPU temperature is, so I just opted to not use the front one. Now, you can, if you don't have an AIO, if you're gonna run like an air cooler or something like that and there's no digital display, you can go ahead and use the front, but I just didn't because I didn't need to. So my main concern with this case is that at the $130 to $150 price range, you've got a lot of really good options. Now, I'm not saying that this case doesn't belong in that list of good options, but in order to choose this case over the large amount of options you do have at that price point, you'd need to really love this glass. Now, I think the glass looks really great, so you really gotta love that glass. So I'm just saying, at $130, it's priced with the big dogs. But performance-wise, it is keeping up. Maybe not acoustically. Acoustically, it's a little loud, but all in all, not a bad option if you're looking for an ATX case that has a unique feature, something that most people don't have. But regardless, if you had a little bit of fun here with me today, please consider hitting the subscribe button as well as smashing that like button. It does wonders and helps supporting this channel so that I can continue to make these awesome videos for you guys. But as always, no matter where you are in the world, I hope that you are having a fantastic day, and I'm gonna see you right here for the next video.